I'm Amelia, 30, female, and he forgot our anniversary, so I made him remember it forever. It's a harsh truth, but it's mine. Ben, my partner for 5 years, was the charming, ambitious marketing executive who'd swept me off my feet. I, a pastry chef and owner of a beloved local bakery, poured my heart into my creations and into us. Our anniversary was always a sacred date for me, a marker of our journey, a day filled with cherished traditions. But Ben, increasingly consumed by his demanding career, had started to forget, to dismiss, to erase the very fabric of our shared life. The first subtle crack appeared on our 3rd anniversary. I'd spent weeks designing and baking a miniature replica of our first date spot, a quaint little cafe out of gingerbread and royal icing. It was intricate, a labor of love. I presented it to him with a flourish. Ben glanced at it, distracted, already on his phone. Oh, wow, Amelia, that's great. Look, I'm so sorry, I totally spaced on a gift. Huge presentation tomorrow. Can we just do something next weekend? He forced a quick, apologetic smile, kissed my forehead, and was back to his emails. The gingerbread cafe sat untouched, silently mocking my effort. I told myself he was stressed, that his job was just demanding. Then came the bigger slights. Our weekly date night tradition, once a non-negotiable, slowly faded into oblivion. He'd cancel last minute, his excuses always vague, always work-related. Brainstorming session ran late, or client flew in unexpectedly. I'd find myself eating alone, the reservations canceled, the anticipation turning into a hollow ache. One evening, after a particularly grueling week at the bakery, I confessed how exhausted I was and how much I was looking forward to our quiet dinner. He barely looked up from his laptop. Yeah, me too. Just finished this report for Monday. No comfort, no offer to help, just a dismissive grunt. I felt unseen, unheard, a slowly wilting flower in the shadow of his towering ambition. The most painful foreshadowing, though, was his increasing forgetfulness about my bakery. I'd built it from scratch, pouring my life savings and passion into creating a place where people found joy in my pastries. Ben had been so supportive in the beginning, even helping me paint the walls. But over time, he stopped asking about my day, stopped celebrating my small victories. When I landed a major catering contract, a huge win for my business, I called him, bubbling with excitement. His response was a distracted, "That's nice, hon. Listen, I gotta go. I'm late for a call with my boss." He didn't even remember the details of the contract I'd been working so hard on. His indifference stung more than any criticism. The stage was being set for the ultimate erasure, the final unforgivable oversight that would push me to my breaking point. The pattern of Ben's dismissiveness continued, a slow erosion of my spirit and our shared life. My beloved bakery, once a source of shared pride, now felt like a separate world he rarely entered. His career, meanwhile, was soaring. He was promoted, his new title bringing with it even longer hours, more travel, and an almost pathological inability to focus on anything beyond his work. When he was home, his attention was glued to his phone, emails, or urgent calls, his mind miles away. I tried to bridge the gap. I'd bring him fresh pastries, hoping to tempt him into a moment of shared sweetness. He'd grab one, thank me distractedly, and carry it back to his laptop. I'd try to plan weekend getaways, reminding him of places we'd always wanted to visit. He'd nod, vaguely agreeable, then inevitably cancel at the last minute with a new, equally vague work emergency. Big presentation, unexpected client flight, team bonding exercise. His excuses were like a broken record, and my patience was wearing thin. Our conversations became one. Cited monologues from me, punctuated by his distracted ahas, or "That's nice, Amelia's." I felt like a background character in my own life, an extra in the drama of his ambition. The affection dwindled, replaced by a polite distance. When I expressed my loneliness, my feeling of being neglected, he'd react with irritation. "Amelia, I'm working. I'm doing this for our future. Can't you see that?" He'd then turn it into a lecture about my lack of understanding. For his demanding career, making me feel selfish and unreasonable. The milestone, our 5th anniversary, was approaching. It was a big one. I had dropped subtle hints for weeks, mentioning the date casually, bringing up memories from our first year, even leaving an open calendar on the kitchen counter with our 5th anniversary, circled in red. I pictured a quiet dinner, maybe a weekend away, a recognition of our shared history. It was all I wanted, a sign that he still saw us. The morning of our anniversary dawned. I woke up early, my heart thrumming with nervous anticipation. I baked his favorite lemon poppy seed muffins, brewing his coffee just the way he liked it. He emerged from the bedroom, already dressed for work, his phone in hand. He grabbed a muffin, took a hurried bite. "Thanks, Han. Smells great. Got her run, big day at the office." He kissed my forehead, a quick, almost dismissive peck, and walked out the door. No flowers, no card, no happy anniversary. Not even a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He had completely, utterly forgotten. The muffin sat untouched on the counter, its cheerful yellow a cruel contrast to the hollowness in my chest. The silence in the apartment screamed. It wasn't just a forgotten date. It was a profound, aching statement of his utter disregard. The tears finally came, hot and furious, but beneath them, a cold, hard resolve began to crystallize. He had forgotten our anniversary. I would make him remember it forever. The sting of Ben's forgotten anniversary, that dismissive peck on the forehead, the nonchalant big day at the office, felt like a physical blow. The silence in the apartment after he left was deafening, filled only by the echoes of my shattered expectations. 5 years of shared dreams, inside jokes, and unwavering support, reduced to a forgotten date. The tears that fell were not just for the lost day, but for the slow, agonizing death of a relationship I had fought so hard to keep alive. The initial heartbreak quickly solidified into a cold, precise anger. This wasn't just about a forgotten anniversary. It was the culmination of years of being dismissed, undervalued, and unseen. He had taken my love, my loyalty, and my time for granted, consistently choosing his career over us. And his ambition, his carefully cultivated image as a rising star, was his most vulnerable point. I decided then and there that he would remember this anniversary, not just as a date, but as the turning point that reshaped his life. I spent the day in a haze of meticulous planning. I didn't confront him, not yet. Confrontation would be too easy, too direct. It would allow him to apologize, to make excuses, to perhaps buy me flowers and sweep it under the rug, just as he had done before. I wanted his memory of this anniversary to be etched in his mind, public and undeniable. My plan began to take shape, leveraging my skills as a pastry chef and my intimate knowledge of Ben's professional life. I knew he was presenting at a major marketing conference the following week, a high-stakes event crucial for his next big promotion. He would be on stage, in front of industry peers, potential clients, and influential figures. It was the perfect stage for his permanent reminder. I started by subtly gathering information. I checked his public work calendar, confirmed the exact date and time of his presentation, and the venue. I knew the overall theme of the conference was innovation and connection. The irony wasn't lost on me. I then returned to my bakery, not to bake confections for clients, but to craft a very specific, very personal message for Ben. I decided to make a cake, a masterpiece of edible artistry, but one laced with a bitter truth. I imagined the look on his face, the moment of dawning realization, the public humiliation. As the cake took shape carefully and precisely, so too did my resolve. Every intricate detail of the edible sculpture was designed to highlight his forgetfulness and neglect. It wasn't just about the cake, it was about the message, delivered with devastating precision. He had forgotten our anniversary, but I would make sure that day became the most unforgettable day of his life, a permanent monument to his disregard. The stage was set, the masterpiece was being crafted, and Ben was completely oblivious to the bitter taste that awaited him. The immediate sting of Ben's forgotten anniversary lingered, but it was quickly replaced by a cold, unwavering focus. The anger that had simmered beneath the surface for so long finally boiled over, solidifying my resolve. He wouldn't get away with another dismissive apology. This time, the lesson would be permanent. I maintained my composure, responding to his occasional "How's your day?" texts with polite, non-committal answers, playing the unsuspecting partner. My silence was my greatest weapon. My bakery, usually a place of joyful creation, became my war room. I spent hours alone, meticulously planning the culinary masterpiece that would serve as Ben's public reckoning. It wasn't just about a cake, it was a statement, a silent scream of years of neglect, presented with artistic precision. The concept solidified, a multi-tiered cake, each tier representing a year of our relationship, decorated with symbolic elements of our shared memories. The top tier, however, would be starkly different, intentionally barren, reflecting the emptiness of our 5th anniversary, crowned not with a celebratory figure, but with a small, stark clock showing the exact time he walked out that morning, forgetting everything. The flavors would be bittersweet, literally and figuratively. I knew the biggest challenge would be getting the cake to the conference without suspicion and ensuring it was presented at the optimal moment. I leveraged my network. I contacted an old culinary school friend, David, who worked as a caterer for large corporate events. I told him I had a special promotional cake for a client's significant event, asking if he could help with the discreet delivery and setup. He, unsuspecting, agreed, seeing it as a favor and a potential networking opportunity. I spent the next few days in a feverish state of baking and decorating, each stroke of icing, each carefully placed sugar flower, infused with purpose. My hands, usually guided by love for my craft, were now driven by a cold, righteous anger. I thought of every canceled date, every dismissive glance, every time he prioritized work over us. The cake was becoming a monument to his negligence, a physical manifestation of my heartbreak. The weight of the secret was immense. I couldn't confide in anyone. My parents knew something was wrong between us, but I hadn't revealed the depth of his neglect, let alone my plan. My friends sensed my distance, but I offered vague excuses about busy season at the bakery. This was my fight, my pain, and my revenge. Ben, oblivious and absorbed in his impending presentation, had no idea the sweet, yet utterly bitter, surprise that awaited him. His forgetfulness had set the stage, and I was about to deliver a performance he would never, ever forget. The day of Ben's big marketing conference presentation arrived, ironically themed connecting with your audience, building lasting relationships. The irony wasn't lost on me. My heart thrummed with a nervous energy, a mix of apprehension and grim satisfaction. I had carefully coordinated with David, my caterer friend, assuring him the delivery was top secret for a special client. He, excited by the mystery, had agreed to place the cake discreetly backstage until my signal. I arrived at the sprawling convention center, dressed in nondescript clothes, blending into the buzzing crowd of marketing professionals. I located David, who gave me a subtle nod, confirming the cake was in place. I then made my way to the main auditorium, finding a seat near the back, observing the scene. Ben was on stage, charismatic and confident, delivering his presentation with practiced ease, his laser pointer dancing across slides filled with market data and strategic initiatives. His usual charm was on full display. As he neared the end of his presentation, about to reveal the big new campaign his company was launching, I sent David a prearranged text, now. Moments later, a team of convention staff, led by David, wheeled out a large, covered trolley onto the stage, directly behind Ben. The trolley was adorned with ribbons and balloons, looking like a celebratory surprise. A ripple of curiosity went through the audience. Ben paused, confused, then forced a polite, bewildered smile, assuming it was a corporate gesture from his team. "Ah, looks like my team has a little surprise for me." He chuckled, trying to play it off. He gestured for them to unveil it. The cover was dramatically lifted, revealing my masterpiece. It was a magnificent, 5-tiered cake, each tier a work of art, representing our relationship. The first tier was decorated with miniature bakery tools and tiny, edible versions of my pastries. The second, a tiny bookstore scene where we first met. The third, a miniature park bench where he first told me he loved me. The fourth, a tiny, edible replica of my bakery, adorned with a grand opening sign. But the fifth and final tier was stark white, devoid of decoration, a barren landscape of untouched fondant. And at its very top, instead of a celebratory topper, was a small, edible clock, its hands frozen at the exact time he had walked out that morning, forgetting our anniversary, 8:17 a.m. Around its base, subtly inscribed in delicate icing, were the words, 5 years, forgotten. A collective gasp swept through the audience. Murmurs erupted, rapidly growing louder. Ben's forced smile evaporated, his eyes widening in horror as he stared at the cake. He read the words, saw the frozen clock, and the dawning realization spread across his face, pure and unadulterated. He finally remembered, his face drained of color. He looked from the cake to the bewildered audience, then his eyes found mine at the back of the room. I gave him a slow, deliberate smile, a mirror of his own dismissive smiles over the years. This time, however, my smile held a chilling triumph. He had forgotten our anniversary, but I had made him remember it forever, in front of everyone who mattered to his meticulously crafted career. The unveiling of his neglect was complete. The silence that followed the unveiling of the cake was deafening, a palpable vacuum in the bustling convention center. Then a ripple of murmurs erupted, quickly swelling into a confused hum. People leaned in, pointing at the stark 5th tier, deciphering the cruel inscription, 5 years, forgotten. The frozen clock, a stark monument to his oversight, became the undeniable focal point. Ben stood frozen, his face a mask of utter horror. His eyes, usually so confident and assured, darted frantically between the cake and the bewildered faces in the audience. His carefully constructed professional facade crumbled in an instant. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His boss, a stern-faced woman named Ms. Davies, who was seated in the front row, rose slowly, her expression grim. She looked at the cake, then at Ben, a look of profound disappointment etched on her face. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs, "can you explain this?" Ben stammered, It's a misunderstanding, a prank." He tried to laugh it off, a desperate, hollow sound. But then my friend David, the caterer, stepped forward, looking confused but earnest. "No, sir," he said to Ms. Davies. "Ms. Amelia specifically designed this cake for Mr. Hayes today. She said it was a very personal message." His innocent words sealed Ben's fate. The audience erupted. Whispers of negligent, disrespectful, and unprofessional echoed through the hall. People started pulling out their phones, snapping pictures of the cake, the story already spreading through social media channels. The very connections and lasting relationships he had just lectured on were now turning against him. I remained at the back, observing the chaos I had meticulously orchestrated. Ben's eyes, wide with panic, finally found me. He started down the aisle, pushing through the confused crowd, his face contorted in a mixture of rage and desperation. "Amelia, what did you do?" He hissed, his voice raw. I didn't move. I just looked at him, my gaze steady, and gave him a slow, deliberate smile, a mirror of his own dismissive smiles over the years. "I made you remember, Ben," I said, my voice calm and clear enough for those around us to hear. "I made you remember the anniversary you forgot, forever." He stopped dead in his tracks, utterly defeated. His grand presentation was in shambles, his reputation in tatters, all because of a cake designed to make him remember. Security personnel, realizing the event had spiraled out of control, moved in to clear the stage and escort Ben away. He was led out, a solitary figure of shame, his forgotten anniversary now a public spectacle, a permanent stain on his career. He had forgotten our anniversary, so I made him remember it forever in the most unforgettable way possible. The fallout for Ben was swift and brutal. News of the anniversary cake disaster spread like wildfire through the marketing industry and beyond. Pictures of the meticulously crafted cake, with its stark fifth tier and the damning inscription, went viral. His company, reeling from the negative publicity and the clear evidence of his unprofessional conduct and disregard, swiftly terminated his employment. His promising career, once his everything, was utterly derailed. Offers of new positions evaporated, and his name became synonymous with public humiliation. I heard he struggled to find work, his carefully cultivated image irrevocably tarnished. For me, the immediate rush of vindication slowly settled into a profound sense of peace. The raw ache of betrayal and neglect began to heal, replaced by a quiet strength and a renewed sense of self-worth. The meticulous planning and execution of my reminder had been incredibly empowering. I had transformed my pain into a powerful statement, reclaiming my dignity and my voice. My bakery thrived. The story, once it leaked, drew in curious customers who were fascinated by the revenge baker. But they stayed because of the quality of my pastries and the genuine warmth of my shop. My creations, once just desserts, now felt infused with a deeper purpose. I channeled my renewed focus and creativity into expanding my business, developing new recipes, and fostering a strong community around my bakery. I learned invaluable lessons from the ordeal. I learned to trust my instincts, to recognize the subtle signs of neglect, and to value genuine connection over superficial success. I understood that true love requires presence and acknowledgement, not just ambition and promises of a future that never truly arrives. I found a deep satisfaction in my work, in nurturing something real and tangible, something that brought joy to others. My life, unburdened by Ben's indifference, bloomed with new possibilities. I began dating again, cautiously, prioritizing kindness, respect, and mutual appreciation. It was a different kind of connection, built on a foundation of honesty and shared presence, rather than hollow promises. Ben was left with the permanent, undeniable reminder of the anniversary he forgot, etched into his memory and his professional record. And I, Amelia, had found my own sweet victory, a future built on authenticity and self, Worth, a life where my worth was no longer dictated by anyone else's memory or neglect. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories. We are all human. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon.